Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Ramo Rajamani Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Bihata Nishacharachamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha. Ramanasti Parayanam Parataram Ramasya Dasosmyaham Rame Chittalaya Sada Bhavatu Me Bho Rama Mamuddhara Samasta Janakalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahmavidwaram Satgurum Brahmavidwaram Akhandam Satchidanandam Avang Manasagocharam Atmanamakhila-dharam Ashraye Bhishta-siddhaye Arthatopyadvayanandan Atitadvaita-bhanatah Guruna-radhya Vedanta-saram Vakshe Yathamati. Hari Om. We had seen the portion where Tattvamasi Mahavakya Vichara was done. And after understanding how Tattvamasi works, Swamiji is now elaborating how Aham Brahmasmi Mahavakya should work in our life. We had seen that there are two types of avidyas. One is called as Moola Avidhya, second is called as Toola Avidhya. Moola Avidhya means that ignorance which is about our own true nature, thinking ourselves to be born, thinking ourselves to be karta, bhokta, all of that is part of Moola Avidhya. And this Moola Avidhya is so powerful, which we otherwise call as Maya Shakti, that it doesn't only cover things, but it also projects things. Puja Gurudev would call this as non-apprehension and misapprehension. Non-apprehension means just covering something. Misapprehension means thinking that entity to be something else. Projection is also there. That is the power of this Moola Avidhya. So this Maya Shakti projects several things because of this ignorance. And ignorance about something within that projection, meaning ignorance about something within this world, that is called as Toola Avidhya. Toola Avidhya. Now, when we make this distinction, it is not to say that Toola Avidhya is not important or Toola Avidhya is criticized. It is only to say that these are two different types of ignorance. Toola Avidhya has its own glory, it has its own greatness. But no matter what thing we try to know under Toola Avidhya, it will not remove the notion of finitude. There have been great rishis, great Mahatmas who have understood so many things about this creation. Astronomy, astrology, Ayurveda, even about this physical body. Now, where will you put that? Moola Avidhya or Toola Avidhya? Toola Avidhya only. There was ignorance about something of this creation, but their power was such, they could divinize that particular field of science, and they looked upon it as another divine thing. Through upasana, they were able to remove that Toola Avidhya. See the greatness of Rishi. Huh? For a common person, they have to go and do an experiment to remove Toola Avidhya, or use their sense organs to remove Toola Avidhya. Upanishad Rishis were able to remove it through Upasana. The main point is Toola Avidhya is also having its glory. But we say no matter what kind of Toola Avidhya is removed, it will not remove the notion of finitude. It will not give knowledge about Aham. Then the knowledge that will remove Moola Avidhya, that is called as Vedantic knowledge. In Mundaka Upanishad, that knowledge which removes Moola Avidhya is called as Para Avidhya. And that knowledge which removes Toola Avidhya is called as Apara Avidhya. So this is the seeker who wants Para Avidhya. And it is said, the purpose of having a human birth is to get this Para Avidhya and to remove Moola Avidhya from ourselves. In entire Bhaja Govindam, this is what Bhagavan is trying to convince. He says, you have spent a lot of time focusing on Toola Avidhya. That alone is not going to save us. Nahi nahi rakshati dukrun karane bhaja govindam bhaja govindam. Know that Govinda, who is the witness of sense organs. The one who is enlivening the sense organs, that Govinda should be our goal. That is who we truly are. And how will we do this? He says, Dekhiya Suniya Guniya Manamahi. Yesterday we saw Ramcharitmanas. Dekhiya means one should see this truth. How should one see it? Do Shravanam. Suniya. Guniya, do Mananam. That was all part of Mananam. Mahavakya Vichara, what we saw. On one side you let go of conditioning, another side you let go of conditioning, try to bring both of them together. Jahad, Ajahad Lakshana, Jahad Ajahad Lakshana. All of that is Mananam only, Guniya. And once this is done, Manamahi. Withdraw mind from everything else and try to put it in this particular Mahavakya Jnanam. Withdrawing mind means withdrawing Mahatva Buddhi. If you literally translate it, it will be very difficult. If I have so many things to do from morning till evening, what is this sadhana of withdrawing your mind? There's no withdrawing mind means goal of life should become abidance in this Mahavakya Jnanam. Keeping that in mind, this sadhaka does all vyavahara. And Bhagavan says, somebody who can make this as their lifestyle, those people are indeed blessed. Te dhanyaha bhuvi paramartha nishchite ihaha. Te dhanyaha, those people are blessed. Bhuvi paramartha nishchita. Those who have made paramartha as their nishchaya. There are two ways to look at that shloka. The one that is relevant here is those who keep Mahavakya in front, that knowledge in front. According to that, they will do their vyavahara so that Mahavakya Jnanam becomes easier to absorb. Te dhanyaha. So now we saw these two types of avidyas because the way in which Toola Avidhya is removed, that method is slightly different. And the way in which Moola Avidhya is removed, that method is slightly different. So when it comes to Toola Avidhya, remember the example, right? There was a pot, there was a blanket covering the pot. So if you have to know the pot, step one is removing the blanket, step two is bringing the light. So in Toola Avidhya, whatever ignorance has to be removed, first removing the blanket is like requirement of a thought. Only when a thought takes place of that object, then only ignorance about that object goes away. But not only thought is needed, reflected consciousness should also illumine that object, by which this person says, I know this object. So Toola Vidya, wherever it is removed, these two steps are there. Vritti should take place, and then Chidabhasa should illumine that particular object. Vritti taking form of that object is called as Vritti Vyapti, and Chidabhasa illumining it is called as Phala Vyapti. Another name for Chidabhasa is Ahankara. Another name for Chidabhasa is Ahankara. In Drigdrisha Viveka, we had seen this. Chit-chhaya veshato buddhau bhanam dhistu dvidhasthita. Chit-chhaya, the reflection of that consciousness is taking place in this buddhi. Chit-chhaya aveshato buddhau bhanam dhistu dvidhasthita. Eka ahankritihi anyasyat antahkarana rupini. One is called as Ahankara, another is called as Antahkarana. Antahkarana means vritti. Drigdrisha Viveka, that is how this classification is done. He calls that entire entity as buddhi. Within that, there are two parts, he says. One is Ahankara, another is thought. Raman Maharshi would call it as Idam Vritti and Aham Vritti. Both are needed to remove Toola Avidhya, ignorance about this world. Vritti is needed, and Ahankara goes and claims, I know this object. So, Ghatakara Vritti removes Ajnanam of Ghata. So, I don't know what is Ghata. After Vritti take place, I say, I am Ghataha. This is Ghata. But when Phala Vyapti takes place, Ahankara claims it. I say, Aham Ghatam Janami. I know Ghata. Now, this is in the case of Toola Avidhya. When it comes to Moola Avidhya, removing ignorance about our own true nature, he said, just like in the case of any other ignorance, to remove ignorance here also, we need a vritti. We need a thought, and it will take place only in adhikari. That also was said here. Adhikarinam chitta vritti udeti. So that adhikari who is there, in him this Brahmakara Vritti has taken place. So that Vritti will remove ignorance about Aham. So whatever we saw in Bhagatyaga Lakshana, what I am not, all of that will be done by that Vritti. At the same time, unlike the case of Toola Avidhya, reflected consciousness, Chidabhasa or Ahankara, is not needed to illumine that Chaitanya. Because that Chaitanya is Swayam Prakasha. It is from Chaitanya's light alone Ahankara is deriving its existence and its ability to illumine things. So to illumine the world outside, which is inert, Ahankara is needed. But to illumine its source, Shuddha Chaitanya, Ahankara is not needed. So this was the difference between removing ignorance about the world outside and removing ignorance about Aham. And then we had seen what are the different facets. What was the example for this? Trying to know LED lamp with a blanket. Only removing the blanket is sufficient. You don't have to bring another light. And Swamiji said in 171 verse that somebody who has thought about Aham Brahmasmi, they'll be able to reflect upon that one Mahavakya in several facets. Means wherever we have Viparit Bhavanas, in whichever things we have Viparit Bhavanas, as many Viparit Bhavanas, that many facets of Brahmakara Vritti. As many facets of Viparit Bhavana, that many should be our facets of Brahmakara Vritti. So for example, if somebody feels I am Anitya, means I was born and I will perish. That is Viparit Bhavana related to physical body. So Aham Brahmasmi he has heard, but his conclusion is Aham Nityaha. And ignorance is there. He feels I am ignorant. Now that ignorance is removed, Maya is also removed. Trigunatmika Maya is removed. He doesn't feel, or if I feel that I am affected by Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, Tamo Guna, the thought should be Aham Shuddha. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, they are in this mind, not in Atma. So every word becomes a pointer for meditation. So when the sadhaka is doing nididhyasanam, he will take each and every word and try to open it up. Okay. So this was what we had seen in the last session. Now a few more points. Remember last time we had discussed about, somebody asked a question regarding why is it called as akara, brahmakara. Another question is, you said if thought of a pot is there, ghatakara vritti is there, it goes and takes the shape of a ghata. If brahmakara vritti is there, Brahman is infinite. How did this vritti take form of Brahma? That is one question. How did this vritti envelop Brahma? Second is, what happens to that vritti? Because you removed everything else with this vritti, with this thought. Removing everything means removing ahankara. That is the main thing done by this vritti. What happened to that vritti? Did it remain after it removed everything? If it did, then there is Brahman plus that vritti. There is Brahma plus vritti. Then there is no Advaitam. There is still Dvaitam there. So what happens to that vritti after it has done its job? That is one question. And the first one was, what do we mean when we say there is a vritti which has taken akara of Brahma? Both this we will see in the next verse, 172. Satu chit pratibimba sahita sati pratyag abhinnam ajnatam param brahma vishayikritya tadgata ajnanam eva badhate tada patakarana tantudahe patadahavate akhilakarane ajnane badhite sati tatkaryasya akhilasya badhitatvat antarbhuta akhanda akarakarita chittavrittihi api badhita bhavati. Satu, sa akhandakara karita chittavrittihi. That brahmakara vritti which has risen in this sadhaka, in this adhikari, after a lot of sadhana, after doing thorough shravanam. This vritti, chit pratibimba sahita, sati, even though it is along with this chit pratibimba, reflected consciousness, pratyag abhinnam ajnatam param brahma vishayikritya. He says, although you call it as brahmakara vritti, it is actually sakshi akara vritti. It is actually sakshi akara vritti. Pratyag abhinnam ajnatam. That Brahman which is pratyag abhinnam means it is a witness of thought, that which is as though conditioned by a thought, as though conditioned by antakarana. This vritti will make that as Vishaya. Sakshi conditioned by pure consciousness, Sakshi conditioned by antakarana. It is just like saying, if somebody wants to know what is space, how vast is the space, somebody wants to know. Now, where will you start? He says, space is so vast, I don't even know where it ends, what it is. So then you say, take a pot space. Take a pot space, shift attention from pot to this space. Now, once you have shifted attention, know that even though this is appearing in a pot, the space is really infinite. Space is really infinite. Just like we did in the case of space, in the case of consciousness also, that Brahmakara Vritti will first make us shift attention from thought to Sakshi. And that Sakshi will be understood as infinite through Mahavakya. To be Sakshi, we don't need Vritti. That we already are. But to shift attention from Nama Rupa, to shift attention from thought to Sakshi, for that we need Vritti. Whichever Mahavakya you take, if you say Neti Neti, Neti Neti is also Mahavakya. So if you remove all the conditionings, what remains, he says, that is this Sakshi, which is infinite. Now, infinite also is not in space. That is another thing. In the beginning, we say this whole world is pervaded by consciousness. If you say that space will become substratum, consciousness will become superimposed. If you say consciousness is in space, what is the adhara? Space is adhara and consciousness is in space. So no, it's the other way around. Space is in consciousness. That is our main understanding. So here when we say Sakshi is infinite, means whatever notions we might have of finitude, that is let gone off. So the first point is answered over here. He said, how did this vritti take akara of Brahma? He said, it doesn't take akara of Brahma directly. Because Brahman is infinite. Even for mind to fathom what is this infinitude. If you say mind can fathom it, then it is not infinite. Some boundary has come. You said, don't go there. Start with Sakshi. Start with this Pratyag Abhinnam Ajnatam. That is this pure consciousness, which is Param Brahma. That consciousness is infinite. In that way, Vishayi Kritya. In that way, this vritti has worked. Tadgata Ajnanam eva badhate. This vritti is only destroying the ignorance which is in the form of finitude. Finitude means kartrutva, bhoktrutva. These two things are sufficient. So I am not karta, I am not bhokta. This thing has been accomplished by that vritti. Ajnanam eva badate means removing ignorance itself is sufficient. Ahankara doesn't need to come and claim it. Eva word is for that. Removing ignorance about finitude alone is sufficient. Ahankara doesn't have to go and say, I know this Brahman now. But Ahankara is needed for bringing that vritti. It is needed to do vichara. It is needed to remove everything else. Meaning when we sit down in our meditation, this should be our thought process. If we say I am meditating upon Aham Brahmasmi, removing whatever I am not, I should not feel there is some kind of void. Or what should I do next? That is another question that can come to a sadhaka. I know I am Brahma, now what should I do? You don't have to do anything because the whole purpose is to let go of this doership. If after knowing that I am not a doer, my question is, what should I do? That is the contradictory thing which happens. This is tadgata ajnanam eva badate. There is no need for phala vyapti. There is no need to say anything, no need to claim anything. Even saying I am mukta, is another erroneous statement. All these points Raman Maharshi says in Saddarshanam. You need to say you are mukta only as long as you think you are bound. And he says, I am not this body, I am not this body. You have to continue saying that only as long as somebody thinks they are the body. So if somebody knows that you are a man, that example comes from some actor who was playing some role. He erroneously starts thinking he's somebody else. So then he is again and again told, you are not that actor, you are this person. But once you know that you are that person, you don't have to keep repeating it. So Bhagavan Krishna also says, once you are in this state where you have negated everything, don't initiate any new thought. Everything is quietened down. That which remains, he says, that is this consciousness. Ajnanam eva badate tada. Now the second question is answered. What happens to this vritti now? Tada pata karana tantu dahe. If there is a cloth, the cause of that cloth, karana of that cloth is thread. Cause of that is thread. Pata dahavat akhila karane ajnane badite. Means if you burn the thread, you don't have to burn the cloth separately. If the thread is burnt, the result of that thread, which is this cloth, that is also burnt. In the same way, once this Brahmakara Vritti comes and it negates Antahkarana, when it negates Antahkarana, this Vritti which is arising in Antahkarana, that is also negated. So is Brahmakara Vritti Satya or Mithya? We say it is Satyam only in stage of ignorance. After this Vritti has done its job, that Vritti itself says, my work is done, focus on the Adhisthana now. Don't hold on to Vritti also, because that Vritti, any Vritti for that matter, doesn't stay forever. This is the beauty of Brahmakara Vritti. All other Vishayas, the moment Vritti takes place, knowledge of that Vishaya takes place. Vritti is gone, that knowledge is as though gone. To bring that Vishaya back, you have to bring that Vritti back. Okay? To bring that Vishaya back, you have to bring that Vritti back. But in the case of Brahmakara Vritti, that Vishaya is Nitya Vastu. Nitya Vastu means it is eternal, it is not something which comes and goes. So once this Vritti has shifted attention of this sadhaka towards that Nitya Vastu, it is whether that Vritti is there, whether that Vritti is not there. Whether it comes, whether it goes, it has done its job. That Vritti also negates itself. What remains is only pure consciousness. In Panchadashi 7th chapter, the student says, teacher, I understand whatever you are saying, but it doesn't happen like this in my case. I feel that I've understood Vedanta. Right at the next time, Adhyasa comes back. Jhatiti, it comes back. Jhatiti means very quickly it comes back. So the teacher says, so what? Very quickly you bring Brahmakara Vritti again. Until the time you get this conviction, keep doing this abhyasa. It is not said that one should not bring Brahmakara Vritti. But what it is said is, final stage is such, this sadhaka doesn't depend even on that Vritti. Even on that Vritti. Sometimes we have this question, if somebody is unable to remember the Lord at the last stage of life, does that person get moksha? If somebody is unable to remember the Lord at the last stage of life, According to Vedanta, moksha takes place right at that time when this knowledge takes place. It has nothing to do with physical body and the duration of prarabdha, which is related to physical body. So the moment this knowledge has taken place, vritti has taken place, kartrutva is gone, all karma phala, which is supposed to come to this karta, that is gone. If something was due to this sadhaka in dream, let us say parked in the wrong place, and that traffic cop was about to give him a ticket, $20 ticket. That time he woke up. Now to which karta will that dream cop give that ticket? Same thing happens in waking world. If through jnanam kartrutva is negated, it says all karma phala is removed. Kartrutva in true essence, not just by repetition, but through pramana it is negated. That person is free from bondage of karma phala. See, when in Tattva Bodha and all we study, right? If you get knowledge, all karmas are burnt. Sanchita karma is burnt. Prarabdha karma will exhaust when it happens. Agami karma anyway is not creating results for that person. You say, how can karmas get burnt? And we think sometimes it is like, a heap of cotton where there is a fire put and then suddenly everything burns. Burning of karma means burning of kartrutva. If doership is removed, that karma phala which was supposed to come to this karta, that is removed. That is the freedom he enjoys with this conviction that I am not karta. And prarabdha is coming to that karta, he looks at it as mithya. He looks at kartrutva as mithya and bhoktrutva as mithya. Where are we? Pata karana tantu dahe patadahavat akhila karane ajnani badite sati tat karyasya akhilasya baditatvat antarbhuta akhandakara karita chitta vritti api badita bhavati. Just like when you burn the cloth, when you burn the thread, the cloth gets burnt. In the same way, when this avidya is removed, which is akhila karana, karana of antakarana also, karana of this entire world outside, when avidya is badita, avidya is removed, its effect, including Brahmakara Vritti, that is also removed. So, few examples were given in Atma Bodha. Krutva jnanam swayam nashet jalam kataka renuvat. So, if you take water from Gangaji, it's very holy water, but to drink it directly is difficult. So, they put some alum pieces by which that entire dust settles down, and then you get pure water that you can drink. So that alum has made the dirt particle settle down, but it itself got dissolved in that whole process. So this Brahmakara Vritti is like that. It will remove everything else, and then it will remove itself also. Or in applied words, one part of ahankara is to do sadhana and to do tyaga of kamya and nishiddha vastu as a sadhaka. Whatever thing is kamya, whatever thing is nishiddha. That part Sakshi will not do for us. To remove kamya and to remove nishiddha karma, Sakshi is not going to remove that for us. Ahankara only has to do sadhana, ahankara has to remove. Then when it comes to jnanam, in the light of knowledge, ahankara negates itself. Or this ahankara realizes, I am not this ahankara, I am that pure consciousness in my essential nature. Either way you put it, that is what should happen. Another example given is of that arani. When they do yajna, the fire for that yajna is not matchstick or lighter. They take 2 cups, wooden cups, rub it, and then get one spark. That spark is caught with cotton or coconut husk. And through that, they fan it, and that fire they use for yajna. Now, after using that mathani several times, it wears out. Remember, so much of friction is there, it wears out. So then sometimes they use that same wood in the yajna. So that fire which came from that wood, it ends up consuming that wood also. So that wood represents this Brahmakara Vritti. That only brought this fire of knowledge, but that knowledge finally negated that Vritti also. Okay. Badita Bhavati. So two things were answered over here. What do we mean by Brahman being Vishaya of Brahmakara Vritti? And the second one was, does duality remain after Brahmakara Vritti has done its job? Now this same verse, in a very poetic way, in a very beautiful way, we see this in Gita Dhyanam. Gita Dhyanam, same verse. It is called as Adhyatma Avatara of the Lord. One avatara happens outside. Second avatara happens inside. What is that avatara? You say Vasudeva Vasutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatkurum. So in Bhagavatam, Vasudeva Shabda is representing Shuddha Chaitanya. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Sannitam. Vasudeva means that pure consciousness which we call as Atma, Chaitanya, Shuddha Chaitanya. That is Vasudeva. Son of Vasudeva is Bhagwan Krishna, Avatara. So Shuddha Chaitanya and this world, they have no conflict with each other. Shuddha Chaitanya and Ahankara, they have no problem with each other. Happily they have been living together, right, for several janmas. Brahma Jnanam and Ahankara, they cannot stay together. So what is this Jivatva or Ahankara? Is there Kamsa and Chanura. Kamsa and Chanura. Kamsa is brother of Devaki ji. So Devaki ji represents that Antakarna or Buddhi. Brother of that Buddhi is Ahankara. So when this Vritti comes, Brahmakara Vritti comes, riding on this Vritti is this Chaitanya, Shuddha Chaitanya. It says that is Avatara of the Lord, that is the Guru. That is Bhagwan Krishna, Krishnam Vande Jagatguru. What does this Brahmakara Vritti do? Kamsa Chanura Mardanam. It removes this Jivatva, it removes Ahankara. But there is no need to fear removal of Kamsa, removal of Chanura. Why? Because it is going to give a lot of joy to Devaki. Devaki Paramanandam. When that sadhaka understands, by losing myself, I got everything. Losing myself means by losing individuality, I got everything which was really my true nature. Because until that point, all the joy that this sadhaka has experienced is only by being karta and only by being bhokta. And he feels so afraid to let go of this kartrutva, to let go of this bhoktrutva. He says, now that is the only way I am happy. And if you say you are not this, you are not that, how will I be happy? In Panchadashi, again, 7th chapter, the student comes and says, teacher, I feel like this is a state where you are telling me to start a new business. And you are telling me that you need some deposit money to start that business. What if this business doesn't pick up and I lose my deposit also? He says, that is how I'm feeling right now. You are telling me to let go of this kartrutva, let go of this bhoktrutva. I did not get that nitya ananda, and this temporary ananda I'm getting, even that I will lose. There is one nyaya in Sanskrit called as Bhakshitepe Lashune Na Shanto Vyadihi. Bhakshitepe Lashune Na Shanto Vyadi means even after eating garlic, the disease which was supposed to get cured did not get cured. When this person was a dharmic person, he said, onion, garlic, I don't even eat. So this person said, no, if you eat, everything will be fine. He said, not only my dharma went away, but whatever had to be cured, that also did not happen. So these examples are given for that sadhaka. He says, why are you fearing letting go of kartrutva and bhoktrutva? In Mandukya, Karika, Gaudapadacharya says, Yogino bibhyate hyasmat abhaye bhayadarshina. In that place where we should see abhaya, where we should be fearless, if a person doesn't get right perspective, that person is afraid over there. Means in letting go of this kartrutva and bhoktrutva, we should really be Devaki Paramanandam. That buddhi rejoices in that Ananda Swarupa. He says there he is seeing fear. But if somebody is able to do that, sincerely study Vedanta, let go of this finitude, for that Bhagwan takes avatar. It's a very beautiful shloka. Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. So Jagat Guru is Bhagwan Krishna, who is taking avatar as that Chaitanya riding over Brahmakara Vritti. Kamsa Chanura Mardanam removes Jivatva and essentially takes us to Vasudeva. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sadurlabha. Bhagavad Gita also Bhagavan says that, right? Vasudeva Sarvam. That everything is consciousness. There is nothing called as Jivatva and the world. This is Adhyatma avatar of the Lord. Now comes another facet. All these points we have discussed. Now it is just coming in the verse. In the summary part, we went through all these points. Now this Brahmakara Vritti, we said, it removes ajnanam and you don't need ahankara or phalavyapti. That part is elaborated here. Tatra pratibimbitam chaitanyam api yatha Deepa Prabha, Aditya Prabha, Avabhasana Asamartha, Sati Taya Abhibhuta, Bhavati, Tatha Swayam Prakashamana, Pratyak Abhinna, Parabrahma, Avabhasana, Anarahataya, Tena, Abhibhutam, Sat, Swa, Upadhibhuta, Akhandavrittehe, Baditatvat, Darpana Abhave, Mukha, Pratibimbasya, Mukhamatratvavat, Pratyak Abhinna, Parabrahma Matram Bhavati. Just a reaffirmation that when this Brahmakara Vritti has done its job, what remains there is Shuddha Advaita. There is no world, there is no karta, there is no vritti also. Tatra pratibimbitam chaitanyam api, that reflected consciousness which is there, yatha deepa prabha, aditya prabha avabhasana asamartha. The flame of a lamp is unfit, or it cannot illumine the sun. Either you take flame of the lamp example or you take moonlight example. Because you will say flame of the lamp doesn't come from the sun. But moonlight example, that moonlight is derived from the sun only. In some temples, you might have noticed in the afternoon time when they do Aarti, they take a mirror and make that sunlight shine all the way until that Garbhagruha inside. So there are different interpretations of that. He says this mirror light is needed to illumine a dark place. But to illumine the sun, you don't need reflected light. This is what we chant in our Arati. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam na ima vidyuto bhanti kutoyam agnihi. That this Chaitanya is such where sunlight cannot illumine, there is no sun, there is no moon. How can this light? So Adhyatmic meaning is, how can this Chidabhasa illumine the sun? Sun is representing Shuddha Chaitanya. Nema vidyuto bhanti kutoyam agni. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. Tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati. In that light alone, everything is known. So I don't have to search for that light. So Ahankara's role is only to negate, not to look for Chaitanya. Understanding is, I am that Chaitanya looking at Ahankara, not Ahankara looking at Chaitanya. Deepa Prabha, Aditya Prabha, Avabhasana Asamartha Sati, Taya Abhibhuta Bhavati. That flame gets overwhelmed. It gets overpowered by the sunlight. It's a very poetic term. When this Ahankara realizes, what a fool I was. One of our Swamiji would say this. Somebody asked him, are you realized? He said, I have realized what a fool I was. That is also a realization. There is Ahankara trying to do so many things, not knowing its true nature to be Chaitanya. Misunderstood Ahankara means misunderstood Vyavahara. When that Ahankara dissolves, that is the state. Gurudev would give example of a salt doll, which one day wanted to find depth of the ocean. It waved to everybody, jumped into the ocean, only to become one with it. Same bhava, many Mahatmas, they have written in songs, written in bhajans, that I went searching for the Lord and I lost myself in Him. Losing myself, I gained everything. Abhibhuta bhavati tatha swayam prakashamana. In the same way, the self-illumining consciousness which is there, pratyag abhinna parabrahma, avabhasana anarhataya, being unfit to illumine this self-illumining consciousness, pure consciousness. Tena abhibhutam sat. Coming to this point that this Chidabhasa is not able to illumine that pure consciousness, swa upadi bhuta akhanda vrittehe badhitatvat. This vritti which is badhita through this knowledge, darpana abhave mukha pratibimbasya mukha matratvavat. If you remove the conditioning, what remains is the original. Just like if you remove the mirror, what remains is the face only. Because there was mirror, there was reflection of face in that mirror. So over here, removing mirror means negating upadhis, including Brahmakara Vritti. You say if you have removed this Vritti, the reflection also is removed. Removed again, negated. Negate the Vritti, the reflection is also negated. Then what remains? It says Shuddha Chaitanya remains. This again is a very beautiful pointer for meditation. We started our journey through Adhyaropa. We said there is Upadhi, conditioning, there is Upahita Chaitanya, there is conditioned consciousness, and there is Anupahita Chaitanya. And it was a long journey to appreciate three things. Because Swamiji said all three appear mixed up, we see them as one. In fact, Upahita Chaitanya and Shuddha Chaitanya are not even there in sight. Only Upadhi is there. So that was a journey of Adhyaropa where three things were separated out. So we appreciated what is Vachyartha first. Then we came to Lakshartha. Lakshartha is only Shuddha Chaitanya. But what happens to Upahita Chaitanya and Upadhi? That is this case now. This sadhaka, through Mahavakya, he is able to negate Upadhi, he is able to negate Upahita Chaitanya, Chidabhasa also. What remains is Shuddha Chaitanya. And again, if Upadhi comes, he is able to again dissociate from it. That is the whole practice of Nididhyasanam. Taking our mind away from this Upadhi, putting it again in Shuddha Chaitanya. Through knowledge. Pratyek abhinna parabrahma matram bhavati. What remains is Shuddha Chaitanya. Now this same portion we have to keep reflecting in different texts that we have studied. How this same idea is elaborated. Because the point is to say, Jivan Mukti is not something which has to be done like a vratam. Vratam means what? You make it time bound. From one point to another point, if I do only certain things, then that vratam is complete. He said Jivan Mukti is not like that. It is Vastu Sthiti. It is a matter of fact. This vritti has done its job. Then I don't have to keep struggling for moksha. So in second chapter, Bhagavan says, this person becomes like an ocean. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam. Samudramapa pravishanti tadvata. Means he becomes so content like an ocean that he is not seeking any bhoga for contentment. He is not seeking any bhoga for contentment. And the next verse is Nirmamo nirahankara. Nirmamo nirahankara sa shantim adhigacchati. Nirmamo nirahankara, how will you interpret that? One who has removed kartrutva, one who has removed bhoktrutva. That person accomplishes true shanti in life. And after that verse comes, Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha, Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati. Once you have accomplished this, Brahmi Sthiti, means if Brahmakara Vritti has worked thoroughly in life, he says that person will not get deluded again. That is only to show that result of jnanam is nitya phalam. Because this Atma is nitya, that jnanam about this nitya Atma has to be nitya. Right? He doesn't have to worry about anything else, just getting this clear knowledge. So that is one way to look at it. Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati. Another one is in Ramcharitmanas. Example of the same verse, whatever we saw now, that Phalavyapti is not needed to illumine Chaitanya. This part comes when Janak Maharaj sends his Duta to Dashrath Maharaj. And Dashrath Maharaj is so happy looking at the Dutas. First time he has heard the news of Bhagwan Rama and Lakshmanji after such a long time. And he's overwhelmed, has tears in his eyes, and is asking those Dutas, tell me one thing, how did Videharaj Janak recognize Bhagwan Rama? How did Videharaj Janak recognize Bhagwan Rama? The Dutas say, other than Videha, who else can recognize? Means only one who has risen above this physical body. Other than that, nobody else can recognize somebody like Bhagwan Rama. But the Chaupais, they write, or they say after that is very beautiful. Similar spirit. He says, Poochana joguna tanaya tumhare. Your Bhagwan Rama is somebody who is not worthy of being asked who he is. Means what? He is Swayam Prakasha. That Chaitanya which is there, it is not completely unknown, it is always known. Only thing is, it is erroneously known. Chaitanya is Swayam Prakasha, Chaitanya is Ananda Swarupa, but mixing with some Upadhi, I know it to be something else. So he says, Poochana Joguna Tanaya Tumhare, Purusha Singati hu Pura Ujiyare. They have come and given light to this entire city of Mithila. Tameva Bhantam Anubhati Sarvam. In that light only everybody is thriving right now. Jinke jaisa pratapa ke aage sasi malina rabi seetala lage. In front of their pratapa, all other lights look very ordinary. The purity of the moon, sasi malina, moon looks to be having some malinata. Rabi seetala lage, sun looks to be cool in front of Bhagwan Rama. Next chaupa is the main line. Tina kaha kahiya naata kimi chin hai. Of such Bhagavan you are asking, how did Janak Maharaj recognize? Dekhiye Rabi ki deepa karalin hai. Can you even look at the sun with a lamp? Means, if you have to understand Bhagwan Rama, it cannot be done with ahankara. Dekhiye Rabi ki deepa ke chin hai. Bhagwan Rama is the Shuddha Chaitanya. Janak Maharaj recognized him by letting go of his individuality. Grammar part, Vedanta Saar. Literature part, Ramcharitmanas Bhagavatam. Now, the quotations part. We had seen that also in the last session. That why are we doing this whole analysis? Because there are some Upanishad mantras which say this consciousness is something which has to be known through the mind. There are some other Upanishad mantras which say through mind we cannot know this consciousness. What it means is, when it is said through the mind one should know it, means vritti vyapti should happen in the mind. It can happen only in the mind, nowhere else, not outside, not in any other part of the body, only in the mind. In that adhikari this vritti will take place. And when we say through the mind one cannot know it, means ahankara should not claim that I know Brahma. This is said in the next verse. Evam sati, evam cha sati, evam cha sati, manasa eva anudrashtavyam, manasa eva anudrashtavyam, yan manasana manute, yan manasana manute, iti anayoho, shrutyoho, avirodah, vritti vyapyatva, angikarena, phalavvyapyatva, pratishedha, pratipadanat. Evam cha sati, in this way, manasa eva anudrashtavyam. Whenever it is said, through the mind, this truth has to be known. What it means is, Shrutyoho avirodaha vritti vyapyatva angikarena. Mean they are accepting vritti vyapti. Angikara means to accept. Keeping that in mind, this statement will come, manasa eva anudrashtavyam. Then when it is said, yan manasa na manute, what they mean is, phalavyapyatva pratisheda pratipadanat. Phalavyapti is negated. The applied side of this verse is, it is said sadhaka should avoid two extremes. If somebody says, oh, this knowledge is something which cannot be known through the mind, there is a chance that the sadhaka will go under mysticism. Something is there which is inexplainable, which I know but you don't know. Or somebody knows that we cannot know. Why? Because it is not something which can be expressed through the mind. Doesn't become object of the mind. Vedanta is very clear. It says, don't go under mysticism category. Because it is very well explained through Upanishads. Vritti Vyapti will remove Ajnanam To establish that, it is said, Manasa eva anudrashtavyam. One should increase sadhana chatushtaya and get this clear knowledge about truth. So one category is mysticism category. Another is, if somebody relies too heavily upon the mind, there is a danger of objectifying Brahma. So much is understood about Brahma intellectually. Intellectually, in the sense that person is able to say a lot of things about Brahma without negating ahankara, without negating aham. So he is indirectly saying, I know Brahma. Indirectly saying, I know Brahma. That is the other extreme a sadhaka should avoid. That is why in Vivek Chudamani and other places, Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, Shabda Jalam Maharanyam, Chitta Brahmana Karanam. Shabda Jalam means what? If we continuously talk about Brahma, or we talk about Jagat Mithyatva, by keeping ahankara as satyam, that is not going to do dukkha nivritti. So when sadhaka is going in that direction, same Upanishad mantras come and say, Yan manasa na manute. Through the mind, this truth cannot be known. It cannot be known as an object. So these points we had seen in Kena Upanishad. This is what the Upanishad Rishi is trying to tell the student. He comes and he's giving a benefit of doubt. He says, I have taught you Brahma Vidya, but some students are there who might say, Suvedaiti. I know Brahman very well. So be careful, see whether you have objectified Brahman as something different from you. Or even if you think yourself to be Brahma, see whether you are taking ahankara as satyam also. Because even that can happen. On one side, the sadhaka says, I am Brahma. But on another side, he has firm conviction that I am this person also. So this is when Vedanta says, you cannot be awake and sleeping at the same time. If Aham Brahmasmi is clear, ahankara mithyatva and jagat mithyatva, they go along with it. Next session, we will see a few more sadhana pointers here. Because even after hearing Mahavakya, even after listening to this whole analysis, Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, there are some sadhanas which will help us to get firmness in this Mahavakya. Sadhana Panchakam only. Out of 5 verses, verse number 3, 4 and 5, 3 out of 5 verses are sadhanas to be done after Mahavakya. Because by the end of 2nd verse, Mahavakya is done. Shruti Shiro Vakya Samakarnyatam. Shruti Shiro Paksha Samakarnyatam. Having heard Mahavakya, think about it. Following that, every sadhana which is given, that is for Dridata, firmness in Mahavakya. Okay, that we will see in the next session. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.